Post here, bringing you with a brand new video, and today we're going to be discussing the OCG ban list because it just kind of dropped over there, and it's going to be applying to them on April 1st, 2017. So let's just jump right into it, and we're going to be discussing some of the cards as to why they hit them and why they're coming off the list in general. So let's just jump right into it. So the first card that we're going to be discussing is Tyrant Neptune. For those of you who don't know what this card does, I have it pulled up right over here. It is a water reptile, level 10, 0 attack, 0 defense. And it cannot be special summoned. You could summon this card by attributing one monster. This card gains gains the total original attack and defense of all of the monsters attributed for this tribute summon, which means it basically, essentially, if you tribute 3 monsters, it'll gain the combined attack and defense of all of that. So, yeah. When this card is tribute summoned, you can target one effect monster in the graveyard that was attributed for the tribute summon. This card's name becomes that target's name, and it gains the effect of that monster. So, for example, if you attribute summon this card using Judgment Dragon, and then you can target Judgment Dragon in the graveyard, and then this card becomes basically Judgment Dragon, and it does exactly what Judgment Dragon does. The reason why this was here, I believe, is because there's probably like some sort of FTK or some sort of broken combos that people have started to do with this card originally, because this card was relatively too slow, or the cards were not very sufficient in playing in general. But I think that it's actually okay, simply because if it prevents FTKs and OTKs in the future, I'm totally okay with that. So I'm not really too worried about this card now. If the TCG does it, I wouldn't be surprised either. So yeah, and the next two cards is Zodiac Trident and Zodiac Barrage, and we're also going to throw in Zodiac Rapier, because it's basically the same result, basically meaning that Zodiacs are kind of dead. Actually, they are dead. You can't play Zoo without more than 1 Rapier, or without more than 3 Rapier, and you can't play, or without 3 Rapier, and you can't play even a Zodiac pure deck without Barrage. You can't play any form of Zoo in some way without a Barrage. So I think for the most part, Zoo and Zoo variants are going to be dead, which is fine, because Zoo is probably one of the best engines in the entire game to date. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see this happening. So it's also kind of a good thing, because they're supposed to be getting the new rule changes under for link summoning relatively soon. If not, they already have it. So and Zoo is ultimately unaffected by that. They can easily just power through the link summoning mechanic, and they can even run link monsters to make them even stronger. So yeah. Witch of the Black Forest is definitely an interesting card. I actually didn't really expect Witch of the Black Forest to come back ever, but I kind of see the reasoning behind this. Witch of the Black Forest is kind of slow, and for the most part, if you're going to be grabbing something, you probably already have access to it in most cases. So for, like, if you're playing this, and I don't know, like, if you're playing, like, the only way this card could be even decently relevant is if Teledad made a resurgence, which I think at this point that deck is still too slow. And plus, I think they still only have a Dark Arm Dragon at 1. But I think Witch of the Black Forest is definitely okay. I'm not really aware if there's any erratas to Witch of the Black Forest too. So if this is true, we might actually just end up just casually getting Witch of the Black Forest back as well. So it's definitely an interesting thing to see. Blackwing Gofu, the Vague Shadow. I actually talked about this card. I actually talked about this with a couple of my friends. That Blackwing Gofu might actually be really broken, since they just said that link monsters do broke with token monsters, and Gofu happens to be one of the best cards for token monsters, for link summoning. In that case, because it gives you 3 immediate monsters. It gives you Blackwing Gofu, and it gives you 2 other monsters. You can easily go into, like, the Video Knight, or you can go into Link Spider, or Milus Radiant, I guess, and, you know, just have this be there. It's just an interesting way to look at this card. So yeah. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Now, I actually have a little bit of a thing for this. I'm not saying that this is a bad hit or anything, but out of all the Kaiju cards that are on that we have, I think Interrupted Kaiju Slumber would be the most logical card to hit out of Kaijus. Now, this might just be a direct fallout from Zoo, and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber was just hit because, well, not only is it a board clear, but it special summons 2 monsters, and it kind of can win you the game if you top deck it. And it's also played in Zoo, so that might be the reason why. But I'm not actually really certain as to why this is here. But it makes sense if this is just because of Zoo. I mean, really, that's all I can say about it. And that was Hero Stratos. I'm not actually really weird. This is actually really weird. Despite people saying that the Stratos is okay to come back at 3, actually it isn't. I mean, unless you make Stratos' effect once per turn, this card's always going to be relevant. In most cases, sure, in the Link summoning format, the heroes are kind of dead, but I think people didn't really play Stratos for fusions, or in most cases they played it for the FTKs that he generated. So whether we'll see any of those cards, any of that happening, is still a possibility of that happening, actually. So, Armageddon Knight's pretty relevant. It's pretty relevant over here. I think the only reason they had it at 1 was because of, like, Shadolls or something like that. I don't actually know why this is here. Fairy Tale Snow, that's actually fine. This card is actually really broken, so that's really good. Having 2 is actually not terrible. It's basically having 3. In most cases, it's basically just having 3. Goyo Garden because it sucks. Ignister, that's because Pendulum decks are kind of inherently getting a huge nerf, I guess, in this way. And I think they still have Luster Pendulum Dragon still at 1. They might not. They might have it at that 3 still. I'm not actually sure. I don't really follow the OCG all that much, and unless it's like cards or banlists or anything like that. But Ignister is definitely will help the Pendulum archetype mechanic stay afloat. But I think Pendulum mechanics in general, it's not, the Pendulums aren't dead. Let's be real. Pendulums are not dead, but they certainly will be crippled and hurting. They'll be limping to the finish line, basically. And Ignister kind of like, okay, we're nerfing your mechanic, but here's a monster that you can play in your mechanic that is actually really good, so we're going to give you 2 of it. So, I mean, I think this card could probably go back to 3 in the OCG, and probably wouldn't matter. I think it could probably come back to 3 now, because of Link summoning, and it would actually be okay. Bionic is really good still, but I think it's not as good as it used to be. Being a once per turn effect is still, but being able to bounce everything is still really good. But Bionic at 2 is not really that bad. I'm not really worried about it. Fire Formation Tenki. Fire Formation Zoo's pretty much dead, but I still think this card should still be at 1. That's just me. Brain Control. Brain Control is kind of dumb. It's kind of bad. Artifact Moral Talk. Artifacts are kind of dead. Are kind of bad. Well, actually, no, they're not. Artifact Wind Wishes is still a deck over there. So that just might actually take over. Magician's Faith kind of sucks. And DD Lamia. DDDs kind of suck over there, so it makes sense. So, it does have text changes, but right now it's not specific, so we're not going to worry about that. So, anyway, guys, tell me what you guys think about this list in the comment section down below. I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Team at Metamorphos, and I will be signing out.